Hey awesome admins, Jennifer Lee here, your lead admin evangelist. And I'm so excited to talk to you today about something that's going to supercharge your real-time interactions, Agentforce. Whether you're in sales, service, marketing, or any other area where connecting with your customers and stakeholders matter, Agentforce can make those interactions smarter and more efficient. And just like any powerful engine, Agentforce runs best on clean, reliable fuel. And that fuel is your data. I had way too much content to have it all fit in one video, so this is going to be a two-parter. Now think of this episode as your pre-flight checklist for Agentforce success. We're going to whip your org into shape and unlock serious Agentforce power. Let's go. Why data? Simple. Agentforce delivers the right information right now. But bad data? Well, that's wasted time, resulting in frustrated customers and missed opportunities. So imagine this. An agent receives a request. The agent pulls up the customer record, but the address is old, the recent purchase history is missing, or other key information is incorrect. Now the agent, thinking that this is the right information, interacts with the customer. The customer gets frustrated and ultimately the interaction isn't as smooth or effective as it could be. See the problem? But clean data? That's Agentforce magic. Clean data equals superpowered agents, amazing experiences. It's the foundation, period. Okay, let's get real. Is your data Agentforce ready? It's time for the checklist. First up, accuracy. Right information, right now. So run the reports to spot errors, such as wrong addresses or bad phone numbers. Next, completeness. All fields filled in. Use your list views to find those gaps, such as missing contact information or key account details. Consistency. Same format every single time. Reports will highlight those inconsistencies, such as phone numbers, addresses, you get it. Uniqueness. No duplicates. Duplicate management tools are your best friend. Eliminate the clutter. Timely. You want that fresh data. And reports and dashboards show what needs updating. And lastly, relevant. Data that matters. Reports pinpoint what's missing, such as product interests, communication preferences, etc. Now let's use Salesforce tools to fix this. First up, list views and reports. We can create targeted list views to quickly scan for incomplete data. For example, let's create a contact missing email address list view. And since I like the fields that are already shown in this all contacts list view, I'm going to clone it rather than create a new one. And we're going to call it contacts missing email address. And I'm only going to have it show for me for now. So we're going to want to add a filter. And here I'm going to look specifically for email that equals blank. Great. So with this list view, you can see that we now have all the records that have no email address. And see how easy it is to identify those records that need attention? Now, what about reports? Well, they're your data quality detectives. You can find inconsistencies, spot trends, and identify duplicates. And we can create reports to see accounts with missing industry information, or contacts with inconsistent job titles, or even identify potential duplicate accounts based on name and address. So in this example, we're going to create a report for accounts with missing information. And here I already created a report that has all the necessary fields that I want in this report. So we're going to edit it, and we're going to add filters to the all accounts, all time. And here I'm going to look for billing street equals blank. Billing state equals blank. Billing zip equals blank. We also have type equals blank. Industry also equals blank. And then primary contact equals blank. Now, we're not going to want to narrow it down where it's the street and the state and the zip and the type and the industry and the contact equals blank. So we're going to add some logic. And here we're going to swap out the and for or. So now you see a report where it's identified contacts that are missing either a primary contact, an industry, billing street, billing state, billing zip, or type. Now you're probably wondering, why would I use one over the other? Well, use list views for the quick real-time checks and immediate action on individual records with easily identifiable issues. Use reports to identify trends, quantify data quality issues, and track issues over time. Plus, analyze data across multiple records and objects for broader insights. Use these often. Keep your data sharp, relevant, timely for Agentforce. All right, so we found the problems. Now, let's stop it. Validation rules and duplicate management, your data guardians. But heads up, validation rules, use them wisely. They're powerful, but less is often more. Think of them as your last line of defense, not your only one. Let's start with a simple example, making sure the email field on the contact record is always filled in. So let's create a new validation rule. And we're give it a description. Contact must have an email address. Because we're great admins, we fill in our descriptions. And the syntax here is blank. And I just want to make sure that I'm pulling in the right API name for email. So I'm using it here to pick it. And we want to check the syntax to make sure it's right before we save it. Now for my error message, I want to say, hey, you can't save this contact unless you've entered an email address. And I want it to appear in the email field so we know what's wrong. All right, so we're going to save this. And now let's test this out. And we're on a contact record that doesn't have an email address, but we're going to make other updates to the record. And when we try to hit save, there's our validation rule. However, before creating a validation rule, consider this. Required fields versus validation rules. First, could we simply make an email field required on a page layout using dynamic forms in App Builder or even at the field level in Setup? It might do the trick without having to build a validation rule for manual entry. Just be mindful in regards to required fields though. Are they always required? And understand its impact to data flowing into Salesforce. More on that in a little bit. Now let's think through automation alternatives, right? Second, could we automate populating the field using a formula or a flow? For example, if we have data on a related record, could we automatically copy it over there? Automating data entry is always preferable to relying on manual entry. and validation roles. But if you still need that validation role, make sure it's clear and user-friendly. Give it a specific and helpful error message. Now let's say we want to ensure that for all high priority accounts, we must have a value in the primary contact lookup field, and that primary contact's email address also needs to be filled in. Now this validation rule is a little bit more complex, and here's where caution becomes even more important. Now this validation rule looks at the priority pick list is set to high, and the primary contact field is blank, or the primary contact's email address is blank. Then we're going to show an error message that says, this is a high priority account. It must have an associated primary contact, and that contact must have an email. We need to be cautious big time. Now, in regards to integrations and data loads, if you have integrations or use data loader to update or insert records into Salesforce, these validation rules will also apply to those processes. This can cause those integrations or data loads to fail, which can have major consequences. So you'll need a way to bypass the validation rule, or you'll need to design your integrations and data loads to always meet the validation rule criteria. Now let's think about automation conflicts. Test your validation rules against flows and Apex on the same object. A validation rule could prevent your automation from working correctly, leading to unexpected behavior and data inconsistencies. In admins, you always build and test in a sandbox first, and test every scenario. This includes testing with different user scenarios, integrations, and automation. So let me show you a simple example of how to bypass a validation rule for specific users or processes. And we're going to use a custom setting hierarchy. I've already created one called bypass validation rules. And when you see here, it looks very similar to a custom object. Now, these are settings for an app. It's not settings that a user can navigate to, just like they could navigate to custom object. And similar to a custom object, I created a custom field called bypass validation rule. That's a checkbox. Now, when you go to manage, think of these as custom setting records, right? You could set up a custom setting at the org level using the new button here. Or you can set up custom settings by using a user or at the profile level. So for example, if you have an integration user like a any point integration and you want to set those to bypass your validation rules, you can do so. Or as I already done, I've set up as a Maisley as a user who is our data loader and will bypass validation rules when she loads data. Now we're going to go back over to our account validation rule and we're going to make a change to it to also look to see if that user through the user itself, the profile, or the org has that custom setting. So we're insert field, and this is our custom setting, bypass validation rules object, right? And we're going to select the bypass validation rule field. But only if it is set to false and everything else is true, then we're going to have this validation rule fire. It's always good to check the syntax to make sure it looks good, and we're going to save this. Now let me show you the experience for someone who doesn't have that bypass validation rule custom setting. So we're going to go to our record here, and it's a high priority account with a primary contact with no email. So if we make a change to this, we should see the validation rule. And we do. Now, let's go and log in as Addison Maisley, who has that custom setting, right? We're in as Addison Maisley. We're going to go to an account, and let's pick that same one. Again, hi, priority, Gorf minor, no email address, and we're going to make a change to it. So let's pretend as if she's data loading these updates in. We're hit save, and it allows us to save. So now when the bypass validation checkbox is checked for the user, the validation rule will be bypassed. And this is great for data loads or integrations that we talked about earlier. And remember to document this clearly. Now, other bypass methods include custom permissions, which are more complex but offer finer grained control. So check out the URL that you see on the screen to read up on my blog about using custom permissions. Regardless, choose the method that works best for your needs and always prioritize careful planning and documentation. Now think about the key data points that are crucial for your business processes and use validation rules selectively, considering automation and other options first. And always remember to test, test, test. Duplicate data can really throw a wrench in your Agentforce plans, leading to confusion and wasted effort. Duplicate management features are fantastic for tackling this. And we can set up matching rules that identify potential duplicates, such as the standard contact matching rule that Salesforce provides out of the box. And let's go to the more information link to learn more. This takes us to a help article that lays out what is behind the standard contact matching rule and the standard lead matching rule. So here we can use criteria such as email, phone number, first name, and last name, for example. Then, with duplicate rules, we can control what happens when a duplicate is detected. So let's continue on with that standard contact duplicate rule since we looked at the matching rule earlier. And we can control again what happens when a duplicate is detected. So based on the action of creating a record, do we allow or block the action? And then do we alert or report? Similarly for edit, do we allow or block, alert or report? And what type of alert text should we provide? And then here's where you configure the matching rules. Proactively managing duplicates will ensure your agents have a single, accurate, timely, and relevant view of each customer. So now let's take a look at duplicate management in action. We're going to create a new contact record, and I'm going to purposely misspell Mark's name. And you see it warned us several times about the duplicates. And here we can see it has a message indicating it thinks a duplicate exists for this contact. And if we go here, we'll see indeed that we potentially have a duplicate with the Mark Benioff that I created and the real Mark with a C. Proactively managing duplicates will ensure your agents have a single, accurate, timely, and relevant view of each customer. That wraps up the first part of our data quality deep dive for Agentforce. Now to recap, we covered why clean data is absolutely essential for Agentforce to deliver those amazing personalized experiences. We walked through Data Cloud quality checklists, focusing on accuracy, completeness, consistency, uniqueness, timeliness, and relevance. And we got hands-on with some core Salesforce tools, list views, reports, validation rules, and duplicate management. And you saw how to use these tools to identify issues and start cleaning up your data. Now, in the next video, we'll take it to the next level. We'll explore Data Cloud for those of you dealing with data across multiple systems. We'll dive into best practices for maintaining data quality. And you'll see a practical example of how Flow can be used to automate data quality improvements. Finally, we'll unleash the power of Sockwell to optimize Agentforce. You won't want to miss it. See you there.
Awesome admin.